how bloody red my face is though. I've just come back from that little speaking gig in New Zealand, which I really, really enjoyed. It was awesome. Great
Glowing.
hospital,
I would say you were glowing. You have an
glowing.
aura around you.
A so it wasn't even a holiday. I would love to say it was a holiday, but it was. I managed to spend the weekend there, and it was great. But mate, we are going to talk about something pretty cool that we're both started talking about before. I don't know how we're going to make this work, but we might as well have a red hot crack. And if it works well, we'll give it out to people, and they can they can decide whether they want to practice or do whatever they want themselves.
Yeah, I just think we've got some stuff to talk about, which maybe other people aren't talking about enough. So we're just going to kick it off and start talking about some of this stuff that's important to us.
Yeah, so we've been chatting about basically being human, haven't we? And it's something I really think, even more so now in the past couple of years after the pandemic, that we've really lost our human side.
Yeah.
And I don't
And
know if it's because people.
With the
And
rise
go.
of like AI and robots and technology, that's obviously enhancing our lives more than ever. We need to remember how incredible we are as human beings and do more of that human stuff.
I always remember I went to see Brené Brown in Sydney in 2018, and she was saying that she was doing some work in AI, and that the AI will never, ever, ever replace human connection, but it is going to take your jobs. And I also remember she said it's never going to be able to be funny, but I tell you
Yeah.
what, it's having a red hot crack at it though. I'm
I
telling you,
know. I've got one of
it's
those apps on my phone where you like ask it a question. I think it's called PI or something. And it is pretty funny.
yeah, no,
I mean, it's trying.
yeah,
Sometimes it's awkward and you're like, oh, it's a bit cringe. But actually, they are having a good go at being funny. But you're
yeah. Well, I
right.
just
They're not gonna take away what people can do for people from a
yeah, yeah,
connection
yeah,
point of view.
yeah. They'll never ever be able to. But well, if they do manage to
Yeah, then we better run.
grab some humanity, then I think we'll look at. I'll be definitely seeing if I can get to Mars. Mind you, I wouldn't want Elon Musk as a neighbour. Anyway, that's another bit. But mate, we were going to have a chat about gratitude, weren't we? And sort
Yeah.
of gratitude practices and what we get up to. And you know, I was sort of thinking, I'm probably not. I used to be amazing at gratitude practice, but I probably haven't been as sort of as forthright as what I used to be. But mate, I'd love to sort of know from you, like when did you start doing some gratitude sort of
So I
tips?
think I think I really, really got into it maybe the last 18 months, 2 years. I've been on a massive like personal and professional growth era where I've been really pushing myself out of my comfort zone, reading every self-help book on the market. I really dived into all this stuff about how do we be essentially better humans. And gratitude comes up every book you read, every podcast you listen to, every TED talk you see when they're talking about how do we be the best versions of ourselves and be decent to other people, everyone's go to is gratitude. And you're like, oh, whatever, just like being appreciative for stuff seems a bit pointless. But do you know what? It's not. There's so much science behind
Mhm.
taking the time to actually be grateful and lean into feeling gratitude for yourself. That's really important, but actually for other people. And think about a business context. If we're not grateful and appreciate the people around us, especially as leaders, then we're not going to get the best from people. And no one's ever come up and said, "Oh, I wish my boss would start thanking me for being ace." Like no one's ever said that. So I
Mhm.
think maybe the last 2 years I've really got into it, and I just live and breathe it now, and I want everyone to be doing it.
Yeah, we're sort of hardwired to find the negative, aren't we? That's why it is such a. That's why it's such. It is actually a practice, something that
Yeah.
you really have to do. I was about, oh, geez, I must have been about 19 or 20 when my old boss brought in like a professional motivational speaker, and he was talking about gratitude and finding the gratitude around you. And when you're a 19-year-old Glaswegian, you're like, yeah, whatever.
Whatevs.
Yeah. What a load of crap this is.
Yeah, it's
But
all
there was a
woolly, it's a
few,
bit fluffy.
yeah, woolly and fluffy, and people probably think that now. It's a bit woolly and fluffy. But it was something I decided to do and kept it going. So, and rather than rather than write it down, I used to. I'm not used to. You pulled me up for this before. You know, it's like I don't. I always say I'm really lucky, and I don't know if that's the same thing. But I always go, I'm really, really lucky this has happened, or I'm really, really lucky that I managed to get to Australia, or I'm really lucky that I've done this or I've done that. And so I kind of think that's how it manifests for me when I talk about being thankful or being
Yeah.
grateful. I sort of share my ways about being lucky or
Yeah.
feeling lucky, but lucky you bloody work hard though. So you
Yeah.
should be sort of grateful to yourself for all that hard work you're
Yeah.
doing. Actually, I just had a quick listen to Snoop Dogg when he won his award. Did you like a couple of years ago? He was like,
Oh my God,
"Oh,
yeah, I
I
love
want to,
that.
I want to thank
Yeah.
me. I want to thank me for working hard. I want to thank me for not having those days off." And he was really, really celebrating himself.
Yeah.
And I kind of,
There's a few winners like at the Oscars and at music awards and stuff that are doing that now. And again, it's really bold and really brash. And sometimes we're like, oh, it's a bit awkward. But actually, fair play to them because people do work hard and it's okay to like appreciate yourself. And I think maybe we had similar upbringings, but I was told you had to be modest and humble. And if someone was a bit like, you'd be like, oh, she loves herself. And actually, it's a good thing. We should love ourselves and we should appreciate ourselves. But I think we've been conditioned and brought up to be modest and humble and don't blow your own trumpet and all those kinds of sayings. But actually, like, let's take the time to appreciate how hard we work and what we do and what we achieve and all the good stuff that we're surrounded by. Because often we take all of that stuff for granted, and then challenges will naturally come in our lives, and then we wobble and we rock, and we're like, oh, it's all doom and gloom. But actually, sometimes we forget all the good stuff we've got and all the good stuff we've achieved. And I think
mm.
that's what gratitude helps me to do, just to anchor in to what's going on around me.
So Becky, what do you do to do you have a diary or what do you do? Do you write it down or do you just sort of think about it? What
So
is
I
your
do a
daily
few.
sort of
I
practice?
don't know if you just saw me just pour water all down my face, but
Yeah.
that happens. So I do a few
So
things.
we
So
can
I
edit
think
we can edit that bit
it's fine.
out then.
I'm a human being.
Yeah, we do. People make mistakes, right?
So I do a few things. In the morning, I try and remember all the things I'm grateful for, and I've written myself a bit of a manifesto. I think that's like the trendy thing at the minute. So I've got a load of like things I'm grateful for and things I'm trying to achieve, and I've built them into like it's like five succinct paragraphs, and I read that manifesto to myself every day because it's like really empowering, and that's got some stuff I'm grateful for. When I put my kids to bed at night, so as a family, we've started doing this. Before my kids go to bed, we all say what we're grateful for from our day. And it's a great way for me to connect with my kids and find out, again, what they've seen and what they've heard and what little things from the day that they're grateful for. And sometimes it's like really cool stuff, like I saw this butterfly with like blue wings, or I saw a cloud that looked like an elephant, stuff that we
Yeah.
forget exists because we're too busy doing stuff and working. And and feeling grateful for stuff before you go to bed. Again, there's loads of neuroscience about you go to bed. If you go to bed and you're worrying about, I haven't done that and I haven't done that, and that person said this to me, and what does it mean? And oh, I've got these 800 things I've got to do, I haven't got round to do. And you just worry about stuff. You then go to bed and you then program your subconscious while you're asleep to worry more about these things. But if you go to bed and go, oh man, I had a great day, I achieved this, I'm grateful for that fried egg on toast I had because I flipping love fried eggs and I really savored it. I'm grateful for this conversation I had with my kid about like bugs. If you think about these things before you go to bed, then you're programming your brain to like go to sleep peacefully and happily. And then I think, and again, there's some neuroscience, there's a piece of your brain called a RAS, RAS, and it stands for, I wrote it down just so I could sound fancy, reticular activating system. But it's just this bit of the brain that you can program to see stuff. So if you think about gratitude as a daily thing, and I go to bed thinking about all the things I'm grateful for, I'm programming this RAS to see more of this. And then you get this confirmation bias where you see more of it. And you can prove it works If you go look around your room now for anything red, you have a good look round. And so
Yeah.
you've programmed your RAS to look for red. You're ignoring other stuff because you're just going, right, where's the red? And if you're on the motorway and you do this thing with your kids, you're like, right, everyone see a red mini, and then you shout, you're programming your brain to just look for red minis.
Is that?
Go on.
I was just gonna say, is that like when you want to buy a car and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I really like that blue Hyundai, and
yeah.
then
And then you
everywhere you
see
go,
it
you see a
everywhere.
blue. Yeah,
But
your
before
brain
you
is
don't
tuning.
see it. Yeah. Or if in the same way as in um if someone in your family's just passed away and you're like, oh, where's the nearest funeral home? You're like, I don't know. When you're looking for one, you'll see them everywhere. But before, you've probably driven past like chemists and never seen it, and post office and never seen it because you're not looking for it. So you program your brain for gratitude. Your brain will find more things to be grateful for, and it will then ignore the rest. So
So
the
that's
looking
but
around
that
the room for the red stuff, you'll spot it. And then if I asked you what was brown in the room, you're like, oh, I don't know, because I wasn't looking for it.
you're trying to program your subconscious. That's what you're
Yeah,
doing there.
yeah,
That's what you're doing. I was reading something about that recently. Like you should go to bed trying to tap into your subconscious. So maybe that's a good tip for people.
yeah. Because
You know,
there's all
like kind,
subliminals you can listen to now as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And, so do you listen to any stuff on
Yeah,
gratitude, or you?
I've tried subliminals. And again, it's I'm all for let's try a
Do,
few
do,
things to see what works.
do you
And
listen
some
to
people
like? Do you listen to Iron Maiden albums backwards or something? Is that the subliminal messages?
no, but there's some stuff in there. But I just think with everything that's going on in the world, if you want to go and look for bad news and bad times and negative things, it's all there and you can find it at the drop of a hat. But actually, leaning into gratitude helps you switch away from that and actually lean into all the flipping good stuff that's happening in your own little world and in the wider world, in your workplace, in your team, in your family, in your local football club. Like,
Yeah.
if you look for the bad, you'll find it and it's everywhere. If you look for the good and the things to be grateful for, because if you tell yourself, before I go to bed tonight, I'm either going to have a chat with my family or I'm just going to do it in my head on my own. I've got to list 10 things I'm grateful for. That day, you've got to have your eyes open to spot them.
Yeah, like really. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I've never really thought about it like that before. For me, like just having that practice of, hey, I'm really fortunate that I get to be able to do something that I love, or I
Yeah.
am, I sometimes even call this with, like books I've read or something like that, or I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that was such a really great book. That's such so insightful, blah blah blah, and I've written that down as well. So I actually have a little notebook that I write down. I'm not as good as what I should be in it, unfortunately. But
No,
maybe
everyone
this,
could be better. Yeah.
maybe this is the sort of catalyst to start doing
Yeah.
that and getting, writing this stuff really. I mean, they tell you you should just write 3 things down, but I always try and write a wee bit more than that. And
Yeah.
I like to reflect back on it and go, oh yeah, like I was.
Yeah.
But is it being thankful, do you think? Or are you truly grateful for all the for all that you're getting? Do you think that you
Yeah.
could just be thankful, or are you actually being really grateful? Because here's on, like, when I broke my leg in 2006, and I could have died. Becky, like, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Like, I had a traumatic workplace event occur, and I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, you're not lucky now, are you?" And said to myself,
Yeah,
"Mate,
I
I'm the
am. Yeah.
lucky. I'm the luckiest guy alive. I survived that."
Yeah.
And everybody, they were all laughing. And I would
Yeah.
always say that. I would always say I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I managed to get through that there. And I'm always trying to find the positive stuff. It's excuse me, but yeah, always like that's what I mean about. And I wonder if I have to reframe luckiness, or if it's.
Yeah, and I think it's
Am I?
okay to say lucky. And you're right. You took a really bad negative situation of you breaking your leg, and it could have been worse. And that's the phrase I lean into. It could have been worse. So actually, what have we got to be grateful for? This thing's gone wrong. This thing has failed. This thing has messed up. But I bet it could have been worse. So let's be grateful that it landed how it did. And let's be grateful that you've still got your health. Like, even if you break your leg and there's, yes, a pain, you might not be able to drive, you might not be able to play football for a temporary period, but you're still able to sit up, you're still able to eat and drink, you're still be able to like hang out with your friends, still able to read a book. Like, I think even in your worst situations, there's always something to be grateful for. And that is quite a push for some people, especially if you're like, well, the world is throwing me all this negative stuff. You might have problems with your relationships, you might have problems at work, you might have your kids are struggling with stuff, you might have money problems. Like, it can all pile up. But actually, in those moments when it feels really dark and uncomfortable, what can you be grateful for? And then leaning into that can be the thing that can pull you out of a tricky situation.
Yeah, totally. I, oh, we, I think you're absolutely bang on there. We're absolutely surrounded with the worst of the news ever,
Yeah.
and it's just getting worse. Like, I've deliberately tried to this week. I've deliberately avoided newspapers. I've avoided Trump. I've
Yeah.
not read Apple News or anything like that, and I actually feel that my mood is lifted.
Yeah.
There we had a cyclone. Excuse me. We had a cyclone come through Brisbane last week. I mean, I wasn't here. I was traveling overseas, but I was getting on the feed through my Insta. And you're like, all this
Yeah.
stuff is cut, and people were saying, "Oh, look, there's nothing happening, there's nothing going on. It's a damp squib, literally." Other people are going, "Oh man, like this is terrible," like I'm
Yeah.
really petrified and terrified, and it's just like I wonder how people. My point with that, we're going with this is like just this news that we get, and we're just like, how do you fill your Instagram feeds up with better news and good news?
Yeah.
And I know that I definitely follow on lots of places that I get that my little dopamine
Yeah.
hit from, nice quotes or whatever. So I
Yeah.
am definitely trying to avoid the news a lot. Is there anything that you would absolutely avoid?
Yep, so
The
I've probably not watched the news for about 2.5, 3 years now. It's only if I'm at someone else's house and they've got it on or something. But I don't watch it because there are terrible things happening. I'm not living in a world of ignorance. I'm really like compassionate about there's stuff that's happening. And if there's any way I can help, then I want to. But if I'm sat on my sofa watching something terrible happening on the other side of the world, I can't necessarily help it. And actually, it's just bringing my energy down. And I can better serve people in my local community and my friends and my family if I'm in a good place. So I have to protect my energy because I get really drained by that level of negativity because it's really black and white. It's like, this is terrible. It's really terrible. It's not going to get better. It's just dark and there's no light. And what gratitude helps you to do is go, well, let's see how we can come out of this. Let's see what we can learn from this. So yeah, I definitely, one of my things is I just don't watch the news.
Mhm.
For that reason, I feel better for it, and I'm able then to do a better job of inspiring and helping other people because I'm not letting that drain my energy. And I think we have to be conscious about what lifts our energy up and what drains it, and leaning into gratitude and what you're grateful for in your sphere of influence and in your world and in your workplace, and then the relationships you've got around you is what's going to bring that up. Because like, no one's getting out of here alive. Like, we all
What?
forget that. Yeah, no one's getting out of here alive, so we've only got a set amount of time. Like, I'm literally all for let's flip and feel as good as we can all the time. Yeah, stuff's still going to happen. It's going to be challenging. But what can we learn from that to get back to feeling good? Because it feels good to feel good. And then I benefit from that, and everyone around me benefits from me feeling good.
Yeah, so you're like excuse me, you could probably tell it's typical worst time ever to get like a sore throat now with this chat. But so you're like an
Have you
energy
checked your
giver.
water, aren't you?
Yeah. That's why I've got my water here. So you're like an energy giver. That's what you're. Yeah,
Yeah, and
totally.
I also protect my own energy and I don't let it get drained by. And actually, what I don't do now, and it's a new habit that I'm forming, and I'll often make mistakes, is I don't moan. If some of my friends or people at work start moaning, and moaning is contagious,
Oh,
I go, oh, that's interesting. but I haven't got an opinion on it. And I stopped myself from joining the moan now.
Well, that'd be hard, Becky.
It is hard, but it's possible.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely everything. It's bringing your awareness to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like for me, my awareness is like it was after we caught up in London. I've had nobody to bail me up in it. Normally, I'm so good with my self talk. Like I'm absolutely amazing with my own self. But it must be this past year, maybe 2 years, I've just had this constant, I'm not good enough, or this, I can't do this, or whatever. And then I noticed, like, I'm really starting to, as soon as I kind of thought that comes into my head, I'm reframing it and going, well, like, well, weight, I'm just like, well, I'm on my way to being healthy.
Yeah.
Rather than going, oh man, I'm bloody fat as anything. It's like delete that thought.
Yeah.
I'm on my way to being healthy, and I'm really lucky that I've got this 4 arms, 4 legs, and I can run, I can walk, I can get myself out and go to these amazing places.
Yeah, and it's about being nice to yourself, and also, but like you said, be mindful about who you spend a lot of time with. And there'll be some people in your lives that do come across as negative and draining, and they're people that they're part of our families or some social circle we're in, and we can't. But actively surround yourself with really upbeat, energizing people that actually have got there maybe a few steps ahead of you on like positive self-talk and lifting each other up and catching each other when you kind of get again on these negative paths of moaning and complaining and yeah, just seeing the bad and everything rather than seeing like what can we learn and what can we do different.
Well, they say that you're the sum of the parts that you hang around with, right? It's like if you hang around with 5 dickheads, you're going to be number 6. It's funny. I was talking about this the other day in Auckland. Much if the group starts responding well to stuff going wrong, that becomes contagious. Like much is caught rather than taught.
Yeah.
So I said, like, if your team can just practice that responding well and being curious and actually asking better questions, then that will catch on everywhere.
It just become the norm, won't it?
Yeah. Well, and I suppose that gratitude's like that too, isn't it? You just sort of have that, hey, but really truly meaning it, I think.
Yeah.
And
you said earlier, are you just thanking for it or are you actually grateful? And I think grateful is a feeling, it's an emotion, and it's a really, they talk about that we vibrate on the emotions that we've got, and gratitude is a really high frequency vibration. So really, rather than just flipping it going, oh, I'm grateful for that and thank for that, actually, how does it make you feel? And that's what we lean into, because then that's what we spread around to other people.
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful to October 18th, 2003.
Okay, why?
Because that's the day I set foot on the soil in Australia.
Nice.
And and it was supposedly only for a year, but we took the plunge, and I was like, because we're just so lucky, and they call Australia the lucky country, and it's
amazing.
I'm very, very grateful to the opportunities that have been afforded to me.
Yeah, definitely.
And the friendships and all that sort of stuff. I wonder, what do you think about toxic gratitudes, right? Where you could go to somebody in the work, you should think yourself grateful to still be working here, or you should be grateful that you've still got a job here. I mean, what do you think that rewires the brain? Do you think that makes us go, what? Like, I don't care, or...
Yeah. And I think there is something like, if you have got a job and you've got a monthly payment coming in, we want to be grateful for that. But if someone like throws it in your face, like a boss or a manager going, you ought to be grateful, then it's a bit passive aggressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, it's not going to make you feel like you want to work there. If someone comes up to you and goes, oh, Steve, you did a fantastic job yesterday. When you did that, it was awesome. When you did that, it was awesome. I really appreciate that you've done that. Actually, you're going to feel good and grateful for the job, because you're getting like someone's acknowledging what you're doing and lifting you up.
they're
rather than
bucket
like throwing
fillers.
it in your face.
Yeah, they're bucket fillers. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And then I
So,
was at I was just thinking of an example again, trying to give people tangible examples. So I worked with a team, and they were in a bad place. There was lots of challenges. It was a really reactive phase of where they were as a business. So they were like, we've got 10 fires to put out today, and we'll go out and be really reactive and put these 10 fires out. And actually, when we did that, we found like 20 more problems, 20 more fires we had to put out. So it was relentless. The more work we did, the more problems we found. Um, and they were thin on resources, so there was only so much they could do. And I was kind of in there as a consultant, so quite on the outside looking in, but it was so heavy, I could feel it. You know, when you've been in a place and you leave that day and you're like, oh, I feel it's like it's on me, like tar. It was a really oppressive kind of culture. And I was like, yeah, it is a tough time. There are lots of challenges. There's lots of work for us to do to slowly improve this. And sometimes we'll take one step forward and 8 steps back. So I brought in, I suppose, what you call gratitude, but I call it bank the wins. I'm in another membership and we call it bank the wins, and we do it every day. So after like we'd been out on site for a morning, we come back, we were sitting around having lunch, and on the big whiteboard that we had all the problems, all the challenges we were fixing, we kept writing up new ones. Oh, we got to sort that, and we got to sort that. I got my pen and I got a corner and went, this is now the positive corner, and I called it bank the wins. I said, in our morning, what went well? What have we learned? What have we achieved? What positive interaction did we have that we can bank as a win? Well, actually, Bob's now doing this, which is really helpful in this situation because we didn't see that, and Bob's gone above and beyond and said that, right, Bob, we're writing that on. Bob's now doing this. Or we delivered, we put this fire out, and now it's sorted. We've achieved that one thing. So things we've achieved, learnings we've had, positive things, even if they're tiny, start banking the wins. And then actually that did lift us up a bit, and people like, because they get to the end of the day and go, oh God, we've got to come back and do it all again. But actually, if we bank the wins and felt grateful for those tiny little wins, we know that we made a difference that day, even if we still had 20 things to do.
Yeah, did you know what? You just reminded me there. I used to do the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'd get my team in on a Wednesday or whenever everyone was in the office. I'm saying, right, okay, I don't want to write negative stuff in the reports. I want us to have good news, and the team really, really struggled with it. You had to coax them, and I think that's something that it does take time just to be able to say, even if I think sometimes good news is people just don't realise it's good news if something if
But
it's
again,
a good win.
we're not
They think
programming
that's just
them to
they're just
watch
doing their
it, are
job.
we?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if I gave you a basket of 20 puppies, you'd be like, oh, they're gorgeous, they're amazing, they're so cute. And there's one snake in the bottom. All your focus is going to be on that one snake, and you'll literally disregard the 20 puppies because our brains are negatively wired. We're going to see the bad, and we almost like delete all the good because the puppies don't matter anymore because I need to worry about this one snake. And the story you tell people is about the snake.
And not the cuteness of wee doggies.
Yeah.
All right, finish up. What sort of tips have you got for people who want to do it?
The more you do something, and it is a habit, so you need to build a habit. The more you do something, the easier it gets. But make it part of your life. Start with yourself first and get into a good place where you can do it, and then start to positively encourage other people to do it. If you're in a workplace, do it with your team. If you're at home, do it with your family, and get people to pull out the good stuff. And the more you look for it, the more you'll find. And actually, in a sea of negativity, there'll be things that you can feel good about and lean into that. Otherwise, we just live in a world of doom and gloom and negativity, and I don't want to live there, quite frankly.
Yeah, look, but for me, it's trying to avoid the news, but sometimes it can be absolutely. You just have to take it in, right? But I'm trying my hardest to avoid the news. I done a practice with a team as well. Like if someone had done when we had our team meeting, I would encourage the guys to tell each other if they've done a good job.
Yeah.
So like, hey, such and such done this, and I thought that was really cool. And I was like, oh, amazing. and then it'd be on the board. So it was really trying, rather than just our personal wins, the wins that other people were getting or good work that they'd done. That was pretty cool. And just trying, like getting it, like you say, it's just this habit of keep your. I've got a mate in Glasgow who keeps saying to me, "Oh, just keep your gratitudes up. Just keep your gratitudes up." And I'm like, yeah, and one that says you're preaching to the converted, aren't we? And
and let's normalize that kind of language, because I know we're saying it, we're on the same page, but I'm not hearing this in the widestream media. And that's why if I turn the news on and they were like, right, 20 things to be grateful for today that we've spotted, like in, like, I don't know, Glasgow, that'd be a wicked news channel. I'd watch that.
Well, actually, believe it or not, they used to have a show here, and it was like a morning show. It's still on TV now, but they put it on a Friday. It was like Feel Good Friday, Positive Friday, and they'd put like videos and memes and that on. And I was like, hey, this is pretty good. We should do this every day, and rather than the bollocks that we normally get. No, I mean, that was awesome.
I used to work for the railways, and I instigated something called Feedback Fridays. And so everyone was tasked to go and give somebody feedback. It needed to be like the most outrageous, amazing, awesome feedback, so that they then went into their weekend feeling good. Because everyone jumps at the chance of criticizing someone and going, oh, you could do better at this, you could do better at that. But if everyone had to go and give someone a bit of feedback Friday to boost them before they went off for the week, actually it felt amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
Do that too.
Yeah. Just before we go, that is an awesome little tip as well. Becky, as always, I do love chatting with you. We have always had fun. But yeah, no, as always, mate, it's always brilliant to chat to you.
Yeah, and let's do more. Let's do it again.
We'll see what we've come up with next time, and see what else there is. All right, take care.